Is there camaraderie in that space? Right. It feels like, I mean, a lot of business is cutthroat, but especially in a space where it's competition, right? Like I'm having customers and unique customers. Like, do you have peers in this space? Is kind of what I'm saying, right? Like, obviously there's restaurant groups that have their own people. You're doing something very different, very unique. Is there competition in this space, like how we were perceived in sports?
Yeah, so I don't look at it as competition. I think, if you do good work and you believe in what you do and who you are, you're going to succeed. I think sometimes people get too caught up in worrying about what other people are doing. I do believe that we have a niche in what we do, and we stick to that, and I think we conquer it pretty well. But there's different business models and different cuisines and different, concepts that, I respect what other people are doing. Do I look at it as competition? Indirectly maybe, but people are going to eat where they're comfortable and where they like the food and they like the vibe and they have a relationship. So at the end of the day, I think it's building relationships, making sure people are comfortable and having great food. Yeah. And the white glove service and, doing more than just taking people's reservations and feeding them, being available and, being accessible. I think that's a big part of what I do and what I've done over the last 10 years in terms of building relationships is, being available and accessible.
White glove service. I asked that because I wonder, as you're building and you're watching restaurants being open, is there somebody that you can bounce ideas from? Or you might frequent a restaurant and said, hey, you know what? I like that flower arrangement. How can we add that or incorporate that into something we're doing?
Yeah, so, my partners and I, we definitely, you're not reinventing the wheel. You see what works in other places, in other cities, in other countries, and you see how you could incorporate that into your business model.
So, what's the ratio for you as far as success, as far as people that have reservations and people that just walk in? Like, how many tables you have?
We seat about probably 275 people.
So 275 people. So it's like, do you try to have 40% nightly reservations and then open it up for 60 on the walk-in, or does that? How does that
Yeah, so we don't look at it as percentages. We try to maximize the amount of reservations we could take ahead of time. You get no-shows, which is part of the process. We call to confirm, we take credit cards, but naturally there's a percentage of people that just don't make it to the reservation for a variety of different reasons. And then we have our regular clients that we book through our phones and, relationships we have. Then there's people that book private events through our events team. And then we have walk-ins. So there's a combination of all, but I think, there's a pretty good formula where, you take X amount of reservations, you take X amount of walk-ins, and then you take another percentage of reservations that come through our cell phones, on a nightly basis.
So how do you keep a reservation? I always wondered that. Like, if I say I want a reservation at 9 o'clock, if there's if there's an empty table, that's easy to accommodate. But if the restaurant's full, then you're actually working on a mathematical equation that somebody's going to finish at 9 o'clock, right? Mm-hmm. But there's no guarantee that these tables are going to finish. So I've seen some restaurants that put time limits on, but most don't.
Yeah, so we technically have a 90-minute dining limit.
So you have time limits.
We technically do, and we only exercise that time limit when it's necessary. Obviously, if there's no need to ask for someone to, get up, then we let people stay there as long as they want and, enjoy the restaurant and the meal. But if there's people waiting for tables and, obviously you finished your meal, you finished dessert, you're just sitting there, you're not consuming any drinks, sometimes we offer people, hey, can we get you a drink to move you to the bar? There's some people waiting for tables. There's a way of going about doing it. But generally, it works out for us. We have a large restaurant, a lot of seats. There's different models, different kinds of restaurants. Some restaurants only have 50 seats. So I think with a restaurant like that, it's a lot more important to really map out your restaurant and each seating. But we're in New York City, so as you know, you could be planning on getting somewhere by 9 o'clock. You take an Uber and you get there at 9:27. A lot of restaurants, they'll tell you, sorry, like we had to give your table away. We do have the flexibility of pivoting and, just saying, hey, grab a drink at the bar. We'll get you seated as soon as we have something available.
Oh, yeah. Why do guys do this? This started during the pandemic also, where if you make a reservation for 6 people and you come with 4, mm-hmm. they won't sit you until 6 people come. That started during the pandemic. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me, though. Because I feel like if I'm coming with 4 people, even if the 2 other people don't come, like, the reservation is still going to...
Well, I think I don't think it started during the pandemic. It probably became more prevalent during the pandemic. But if your reservation for 6 people and there's only 4 of you there, and we seat you down, and now 30 minutes later you tell us, oh, the other 2 people aren't going to make it. So now we gave you a table that could fit 6 people for 4 people. You already started. We can't move you. Or those other 2 people show up 30 minutes later, and now you've been sitting there for 30 minutes. You didn't order any food, and those other people get there. Now you've been there for 30 minutes, but we need the table back in 90 minutes. So you only have 60 minutes with all 6 of you. And now the 2 people that came are like, why are they rushing us? So even though they were late, it becomes the restaurant's fault that we rushed them, even though we gave you an hour and a half. But you got there late, and now all you remember is that we rushed you out of the table because we needed it back. So, obviously there are exceptions to every rule, but, generally seating in complete parties works the best because everyone sits down together. You order your appetizers, you order your entrees. There's a lot of nuances, like, not allowing a table to just order appetizers and then when they get the appetizers and then order the entree afterwards, because it screws up the flow in the kitchen. When the kitchen gets a ticket, they got to see the appetizers and the entrees so they could start planning. If there's a filet mignon that's medium well, they need extra time to cook that, and they might start preparing that a little bit ahead of time to understand that, the entrees can come out all together, because not every dish takes the same amount of time to prepare. So having the full order when you sit down helps the kitchen, streamline everything and get the food out efficiently.
Is there a retention rate that you focus on for returning customers? Like in restaurants, you become a valued customer, and then like Ryu, I remember like that you can only go, you can't even make a reservation. You got to be a valued customer. Do you guys have that or plan to do that at some time in the future?
Yeah, there's different technologies that track that kind of stuff for you. Mm-hmm. We do get a high percentage of our clientele that are, I guess, family, and they text us and they call us to make reservations. So we have a lot of regulars that come once a week, a couple times a month. So we do prioritize those people, in terms of making sure that we always have availability for them. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always work perfect. One of our big problems is that a lot of people want private dining, and sometimes there's not enough private dining available. So someone might want to come at 10 o'clock. We say, hey, listen, we don't have anything at 10, but if you come at 11:30, and it might sound crazy to eat dinner at 11:30, but we're in New York City. There's a lot of people that want to eat before they go out afterwards.
Yeah, you go to a concert, you got to eat after.
Yep.
In terms of customers, what about in terms of the menu? How often are you switching it out, or do we keep the menu as the menu, or is there something that's not performing? Is there retention that goes inside of decision making when it comes to what we're actually serving?
Yeah, I would say, we stick with like the 80-20 rule. So 80% of our menu is, our staples. And then 20% of it we analyze and, look at the numbers and you get feedback from customers to see how we can improve those items. So we're always trying to innovate and add new dishes, but we don't do specials. We don't, pay attention to certain dishes more. It's just, what dishes can we add to improve the menu and the guest experience?
So what's more important to the bottom line, liquor or food?
I think it's a combination of both, but, if you're selling a lot of liquor, you're making a lot of money.
Higher profit margins on liquor than it is on food.
Yes.
So that's the priority. What's more important?
Yeah, if you're a bar, obviously it's the liquor.
You got to have food because it's a restaurant, but...
we probably sell 65% of our revenues is food and 35% is liquor. But obviously maximizing what you sell on liquor will make you more profitable.